Spurred by sectional tensions, the Civil War began with Confederate troops firing on Fort Sumter in South Carolina's Charleston Harbor on April 12, 1861. Taking place between the Union and Confederacy, the Southern Confederates were fighting for their independence. With a population of 5.5 million, the Confederate States created their own constitution and were determined to protect their independence.
Political effects of the Civil War would bring about great ruin to the ways and independence of Southern society. In February of 1861, 7 Southern states would secede in light of Lincoln's election, calling these states to create the Confederate States of America. April of 1861 marked the beginning of the war with shots fired to Fort Sumter, which would soon be surrendered to South Carolina. The Trent Affair in November of 1861 was a diplomatic incident that would involve 2 Confederate envoys on a ship in Britain in which the U.S. Navy would capture them, along with the threats of Britain waging another war with the United States due to the capturing of the 2 Confederate diplomats. This occasion would cause the North to grow an increasing worry of the South's ability to create a political alliance with the Great Britain and the Confederate States of America. The establishment of the Emancipation Proclamation in January of 1863 would once again bring about a disadvantage to the South by depriving them of their income and their political decisions with the lack of slave labor. After the Civil War, Congress implemented Lincoln's Reconstruction Plan, the Freedmen's Bureau, on March 3, 1865, in which the federal government would provide direct relief for free black people and the Southern whites who were affected by the war, for the war had been destructive for the South. With Republicans having majority in the 39th Congress after the Civil War, the South would render hopeless as President Johnson's vetoes continuously got overridden by Congress. The Civil War would bring the Confederacy to being null in regards to their political prominence in comparison to the Union.
The Civil War impacted Southern society socially in positive and negative ways. During the Civil War, there were tensions between the North and South over views on slavery. The population in the South decreased as a result of the Emancipation Proclamation, which freed Southern slaves and caused them to go to the Union states. And Southerners also couldn't own slaves due to the Reconstruction Plan, which was designed by Lincoln and revised by Johnson. This Reconstruction Plan placed restrictions on owning slaves. There were many lives lost in the Civil War, which also played a part in the population decrease. An example of this is the Gettysburg Battle, which had about 50,000 casualties. The KKK was another major social effect that the Civil War had on Southern society. It was a secret society created by Southern whites to intimidate the white reformers and blacks that were taking over Southern state governments. The formation of KKK also increased white supremacy in the South. Despite the negative effects that the South experienced, they still reaped some benefits from rejoining the Union. Post-Civil War, women were given more opportunities due to the roles they played during the Civil War. The nursing field was open to women and influenced future women's rights movements. There were also public-supported school systems established in the South, helping both the African Americans and the whites.
The South experienced many negative economic effects from the Civil War. One downfall of the Confederacy is that they used paper money that could easily be printed and counterfeited, and therefore the Confederacy experienced an enormous amount of inflation. For comparison, the North's prices went up by 80%, while the South's prices went up by 9,000%. When the Confederate States re-entered the Union, they were greatly in debt. However, Republican legislatures did provide the South with debt relief. Also, a lot of the South's farmland had been destroyed. The majority of the war took place in the South since that was the land being fought over. The Confederacy only had to defend that land while the Union had to capture it. Most of the South's economy was based on agriculture and cash crops, so the ruined land proved to be a hindering factor in their economy. During the Civil War, the Confederate Congress passed the First Conscription Act on April 16, 1862. This made all white males ages 18 to 35 eligible to be drafted into the war. This resulted in the 20 slave law, which exempts slave owners who bared 20 or more slaves from the draft. The 20 slave law was also in part a retaliation to Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation. It was eventually tweaked due to the amount of resentment the smaller farmers showed toward it. They felt that they were fighting a rich man's war. Despite the majority of the economic effects on the South being negative, the South did experience some benefit. Republican legislatures promoted internal improvements, including roads, railroads, bridges, etc. in the South after the Civil War. This improved trade and transportation in the South.
North and South Korea split due to different ideas they had in its government and politics. Similarly, the Confederate States split due to Lincoln being elected as president and the Southerners wanted to protect their rights, which is a representation of the different values and ideas in politics and government. The Confederate States eventually created their own constitution and government. Not only this, but many people from North Korea moved to the South, which decreased the northern population in Korea, similar to the population decrease in the South in America. South Korea did not support communism, unlike North Korea, who strongly supported it, which is much like the anti-slavery and pro-slavery ideals and differences in the North and South of America.
North Korea would remain to their communist beliefs in a similar manner that the South remained true to their ideal pro-slavery, and South Korea would remain with democracy after the Korean War, similar to the North being anti-slavery. North Korea wanted to join South Korea once again to remain as a communist country altogether, but it would fail as these differing ideologies depleted the population in North Korea. The conflicting principles contained by the North and South in America and North Korea and South Korea determine the rights and the way of life the citizens in them live.